Luke, welcome to the show.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for coming.
Pleasure, mate. Pleasure.
Hopefully the technology holds up and we can get through this without a 3-year-old blaring through the door or a baby screaming in the background.
Oh yeah, no, I've left my baby next to my wife who's trying to have a sleep because she was woken 3 times last night. So thoughts and prayers for them. I hope he doesn't jam awake at any point.
It's just the beginning, mate. Just the beginning.
I know. Yeah, I've heard. Oh gosh. Like people have asked me what I've learned. I'm like, I can't even tell you what I've learned. And don't ask me for any advice. Like I'm not ready to give anything.
Yeah, look, my son's 3 and we're expecting our second one very soon. And I would say I'm not an expert by any means. It's very much a trial and error process, but
Yes.
learning experience and growth experience nonetheless.
Oh, absolutely. It's nice to fall in love. It's like nice to fall in love with a little cute baby. That's really fun. That's the best thing about it for sure. Is like, oh, look at this beautiful, cute thing that I get to like have fun with now.
Totally.
Even though he's got no personality as yet, like still, it's lovely.
Yeah, you just wait till he starts running. That's
Yeah,
when it gets
yeah.
real interesting. Talking back and running and slapping.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So, mate, I was thinking about this because so we've only met just recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I follow you on social media, and I thought I'd open this by telling you something. And so if you look at your followers, my mom follows you.
Oh my gosh.
The reason why she follows you is so when I was really little, well, not really little, but when I was little, this was in the 90s growing up in California. My favorite actor was Jim Carrey.
Oh yeah, man.
He was my favorite actor of like all times.
Yeah.
The Mask,
Totally.
Ace Ventura,
Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber. And, you know, my mom was always just laughing at me because I was always just kind of running around the house imitating him.
Yes.
And when I watch your videos, for some reason, I get that level of laughter. I just wanted to open by saying that. I think.
Oh, well, that's very sweet.
So
dude, absolutely. I love Jim Carrey so much, and he influenced me. You know, it's like through every like actor that I've become obsessed with, you know, Ricky Gervais, Will Ferrell, Jim Carrey, I've always started to kind of imitate them without knowing. And then I have to stop watching them and forget about them in order to be myself.
Right.
But definitely early on, like when I was a kid, I was just a Jim Carrey impersonator for the most part. You know, I was just like doing what he would do in any given like comedic situation. And you got to drop that. And so it doesn't surprise me that, you know, people every so often say, gosh, you got a Jim Carrey vibe. It's like, yeah, it's because I was obsessed with the person and imitated him for years, you know?
So you've had that before?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt like he's a part of, I think, my influences and then, you know, imitate somebody for like years and then see if you can drop them completely from your personality. I don't think you can. Like it's still there.
Yeah. And by the way, it wasn't any way of saying like you're a copy, you know, a carbon copy of Jim Carrey. I think you got absolutely unique flavor, but just that lyric and kind of just carefree, just funny, man. I get a kick out of your content. It's amazing, and so does my mom. So there you go. So my mom's a.
Oh, I'm so glad your mom's into it too. That's good.
So, mate, let's dial it back a bit. Again, we only just met recently, so we've kind of just spoken about what we do as adults. But I wanted to get a little bit of a background on, you know, who's Luke Cook and kind of where did you come from? Where were you born? And kind of who did you grow up with as a kid?
Yeah. Do you want me to dive just into that?
Yeah, let's just start there.
Yeah, sure. I'm one of 5 kids. I'm the last of 5 kids, the youngest. I was somewhat of some people would say mistake. I would say a surprise. I was 8 years after my brother. And so in a way, like I spoke to a therapist about this, and they were like, and not that I talked to my therapist about like everything, but he was like, you know, it's kind of like you are an only child. And when there's such an age gap between you and your siblings, they're more like cousins, which is true. So I definitely feel that way, and don't feel particularly close or as close as they are with my siblings. I love them, but they're not like, you know, we're not that intimate. They didn't see me through all my moments. Most of them were often married by the time I was like entering my teens.
Yeah. Big age
So
gap.
yeah, exactly. So in a lot of ways, like I think that has influenced me, because you've got to like fill your time, and and you have lots of time to talk to yourself and like kind of make things interesting on your own.
Yeah.
I do think that has like influenced me. Absolutely. My father was a minister. I grew up in Croydon, or Burwood, which is the inner west of Sydney,
Oh, yeah.
on a Bible college. So my dad was a minister, and then became the principal of a Bible college where he taught people to be ministers and missionaries. And so, yeah, I think until I was 17, I just lived on the campus of a Bible college, which was a beautiful place to grow up. Everyone was lovely. There was space to roam and run around. My mum was a nurse, and then eventually we moved like one street back, and we moved into an ex brothel. Actually, the college bought that, and it had numbers on the doors. It was a big house. It was such a, I don't know why I'm telling you that, but it was just such a funny like thing to move in with your minister parent, like into this mansion, like in this very big house with like dirty chandeliers that we obviously took down.
Yeah.
Numbers on the doors.
Get the holy water out.
And it was right behind our initial house. There the entire time. We had no clue that there was a Turkish brothel there.
Wow.
I don't know why I'm telling you that. There's like a factoid about my life, but yeah, it's true.
So if your parents had it if they had it their way, would you have pursued, you know, and kind of stayed in that direction?
Well, maybe my mum definitely is my mum is so middle class. It's crazy. She's like, you know, teacher or nurse, and that's your options. And don't think higher, because you're not going higher than that. That's what we do, teachers and nurses.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And all of my sisters and my brother all went to Bible college. Everybody that they married all went to Bible college at some point. They didn't necessarily go into ministry, but they went through that kind of, you know, wondering if they were going to do that with their lives. I didn't do that. But it was definitely and you know, in the forming years of like 18 to 25, when you're figuring out what you want to do, I already knew I wanted to be an actor, and I already knew I wanted to go to LA. And so there was no questioning like, oh, maybe I'll go to Bible college and kind of figure it out. Like, nah, I'm going to LA. I'm going to be an actor. But yeah, there was definitely that an idea of, you know, just knowing you're a middle class person means going and seeking out middle class jobs. Don't think higher than what you are. Just go and do that, make a normal wage, and, you know, buy a little house wherever, get married, have 2 kids, and, you know, 2.5 kids, and do that. And that I'm not, you know, poo-pooing my mom, but that's just how she was raised, and then how she raised me too, you know?
I think that's a generational thing. Do you think? Because I mean, my dad's the same, and I think a lot of people that I've grown up with, their parents are, you know, fairly similar, and kind of, I think with our generation, we've been kind of that first move to just say no and just push the boundaries, and really, I mean, obviously with technology and just the world being so much more connected now, and being able to really just get out there and chase whatever you want to chase.
It might be too early to say that we're not like that. Like, maybe we will end up being like that. And I think it is up to us to like see like where our class, you know, our socioeconomic standing as kids influences us now, and restrictions that we place on ourselves based on things like that. Like, it's up to us to like figure out and go, wait on, that's a limiting thought that I have because of, like, you know, growing up lower middle class and all those sort of things. Like, you got to be onto yourself. But the other part of it is that you know, being part of a class structure actually isn't the worst, because because if you think that you can do absolutely anything, you're setting yourself up for disappointment and rejection.
Sure.
You know, rather than if you were to just play it safe, you're not going to feel all of those things. So there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah. I think as a dad now, I mean, I'm just kind of trying to put myself into your parents' shoes. I mean, I can get it. Like, if I got a 3-year-old, he gets a little bit older, I probably do want him to like, have a level of certainty and kind of security in his life instead of kind of just leaving and packing his bags and going
Yeah,
traveling the world and potentially
totally.
having anything that could happen to him. Right. And so I can get that. But yeah, I mean,
Totally.
it certainly stifles creativity and just living life to the fullest.
And imagination and like all the things that they can imagine themselves doing. I have to say though, like my parents were like, when I went to acting school, I realized how supportive my parents actually were compared to
Mm.
everyone else's parents that I was at acting school with, who most of them were like, yeah, give up on this pipe dream and get back to what you were studying at university before you went to acting school. This, and my parents weren't like that at all. They were like, okay, if you're going to chase it, you're really going to chase it. Just go.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
I was pretty, so in the end, quite blessed. But, there's still like jibing comments like, I haven't, with this entire year, or at least the last since March, I haven't worked. And
Mm.
mum, at some point, and I'm, I feel like I'm somewhat established now, or at least I'm at the bottom of a different ladder in my career. My mum was like, they really need fruit pickers over in Western Australia. And I was like,
thanks, Mom.
Mum, I'm in Sydney. Like I have like a wife and a child now. I'm very like quite established in Los Angeles, in a very difficult industry. I don't think I'm going to quit and go on fruit pick now.
Yeah.
Thank you for your concern, your interest. No, but it's fun. I have to try and laugh at it, even though sometimes it offends me. Like my mother of all people telling me to quit acting because you haven't worked in a few months and go on fruit pick.
Well, look, I think the reality is we don't choose our parents, right? And I think as we become adults, and I've certainly gone through this. I mean, my relationship with my parents is, very different. I mean, I've got a very loving and kind of connected relationship with my mother. My father was kind of that disciplinary and, always kind of that one that was always erring on the side of caution, saying doing this and giving advice that was always structured. And, the reality is that a lot of the advice from parents as you become older is not the right advice. It's not, right? It's just not,
Right.
we're all sovereign individuals, right? We're all our own souls and we've got to figure shit out. And, again, we don't choose our parents. We've got to love them and be grateful and just have a huge amount of gratitude for the role that they played in our lives, but we don't have to listen to every piece of advice, especially not fruit picking.
Yeah. Oh, thank God I didn't. Thank God I haven't listened to them in a few ways. But yeah, generally speaking, they're people that I look up to, and I'm like, yeah, I would like to live my life like you. They've raised 5 kids, all of whom like aren't addicted to any, drugs or horrific vices. I think that's pretty admirable.
Yeah.
So, as much as I'm like laugh at them, and like they've been very supportive and they're mentors to me. So I look up to the way that they've lived their lives. So it's nice to have parents like that. Not many people get to say that.
Yeah, I heard a saying not long ago, which was with your parents, you blame gracefully, because it's
Right,
like parents are typically the ones that mess you up the most as well, right? I mean, they're the ones that you just kind of seek their love and you want their love the most out of anybody. There's always that one parent. And so they shape some of the characters in you, but you've also got to acknowledge and say, well, that's got me to where I am today, and look forward. And you kind of say, well, now I am my own individual and I can make my own decisions.
Yeah. Like my mom, like if I ever sing, like I consider myself like, I'm not a professional singer, but I can hold a tune pretty damn well. Right. So if I sing around her, she'll tell me if I was flat,
Right.
she won't mix words. And so in a way, and it's like that with all things. Like when I was early on in my acting days, she's like, I can tell you're acting. I know when you're acting, I can tell. And so I was like, it was interesting. It's like, oh, wow, like you're actually my biggest critic. Like when I'm proud of something I think I've done really well, you don't necessarily say good job. You'll criticize first.
Yeah.
But I mean, number one, it's good because you need criticism and you need honest criticism.
Honesty. Yeah.
And also but you do find yourself, like fighting for that. Like, oh gosh, you don't think I'm good. I'm going to fight until you do think I'm good. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and whether that's a positive or a negative thing, you know, like my mom loves me regardless, but I'm like, I want you to think that I'm a good artist. I want you to think I'm a good actor. Like I
Yeah.
called my mom when I did a play with Pacino, right? When I did my first reading with Pacino, I called her. I said, Mom, I just did a reading with Al Pacino. We're going to do a play. She
Yeah.
goes, that's nice, darling. Have you had lunch today? And I was like, oh, like,
Did you hear what I said?
she doesn't, yeah, it's like, doesn't really, just loves me. Like, it doesn't really care about anything else. Like, it's like, yes, you are flat. I still love, like when you sing that song, you're flat. I still love you. You know, yes, I can tell when you're acting, I still love you. Like, it's like nothing to do with, there's a disconnect between what I'm capable of and if she loves me.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, they're two different things.
Gotta love them. Gotta love them, mate.
Bless them. Bless them.
So, I think you had mentioned just earlier, kind of, you knew that you wanted to move to LA and pursue acting. What was that age that you knew that, and what was that pivotal point that you, and what inspired that? Where did where that level of certainty come from?
Yeah, I was at acting school in Sydney, in a full-time acting school called the Actors Centre, and I was there for a year. And then I met a manager who was opening up starting his business in LA, an Aussie guy. And I was 20, and I was like, well, he was like, I really think you're great. You should come to LA and give it a shot. And I was like, yep, I'm dropping out of Australian acting school. I'm going to move to Los Angeles. That's what my aim is now. And just because I was like, I did feel somewhat wasted, or I looked at the industry in Australia and I didn't see myself here.
Right.
I didn't see where I fit in. I was like, okay, like I love comedy. Is there any comedy in Australia? No, not really. Like very, very limited to, very, very limited amount. Like, but whereas in LA, it's like there's sitcoms, there's multicams, there's things that you can go and like there's hundreds of them shooting all the time. So go over there and give it a shot. And so that's really what inspired me. I didn't see myself here. I really liked the manager. We kind of quickly became close friends, even though we're not, he's not my manager anymore. And then that's what inspired the move over there. And I focused all my energy on it. And it was a kind of a funny story. As soon as I got off the plane in Los Angeles, it's almost like they have this ability to smell new, fresh people. Like,
right.
Ooh. And they latched onto me and they're like, great. They threw me out for all these auditions. I got 2 big roles that I couldn't do because I didn't have the right visa. So then I had to come back to Australia, figure out the right visa, go back. And I never got a role for 5 years.
Really?
Like, yeah, for 5 years, I was like, what the fuck did I have then that I don't have now?
And how old were you when you got to LA?
I was like 20, 21, around there.
Wow, so young.
So young and so stupid. I mean, but yeah, and it's so good to just chuck yourself in the deep end of life.
Yeah.
Like it's totally. Like, oh, like you're a young idiot. You're moving to, you know, America, and you think, and you got a dream. You think you're gonna make it, and it's like, great, let's crush that person and build something. You know, build a character out of him. You know.
Man, like talk me through the psychology. I mean, I know this is going back quite a long time ago now, but like that process of, because like I did the same thing, leaving Australia, moving to Asia in pursuit of what I wanted to build. Talk me through your psychology at that point, because like that's massive. Like there are not many people that I think can really acknowledge and muster that level of courage. So like just talk me through that experience, like in a practical sense, if you can kind of take yourself back there.
Yeah, I think there's an element. There has to be you're just young and dumb, like in the most beautiful, courageous sense. Like you just don't know all the things that are about to be thrown at you.
Yeah,
like you can't fathom. Like you've just got this big dream and little incremental things that you're about to see, the day-to-day living, the parking tickets, the insurance that you've got to buy, that where are you going to live, do you have enough money to eat, all those incremental things you didn't think of when you had this big grand vision. And so it's just this dumb courage, this dumb bravery. And you're so young that it's like, good, like, great,
yeah, sure,
go and make those errors. And I made so many of those errors. I got into trouble. Like I had the worst car, I had like 5 of the worst cars,
Yeah.
which teaches you so much about cars, by the way. Like, it's like, you don't know, I didn't know a thing about cars. Okay, get a bad one and you're going to learn about things like torque. Like you didn't even know that there was a thing. And that's kind of like a good analogy for all of it. Like, it's like, you got a bad apartment, you got bad people that surround you, you got bad, like you got bad management, you're a bad actor. So you need to go and like incrementally fix all of those things until you're like a much better, readier human being who's ready for the world a bit more. And that's where I jumped straight into LA, straight into the deep end, straight into like a whole pile of shit that I needed to figure out in order to become really an adult, you know? So that I don't necessarily give this advice to any actor or any artist or any person who's got the dream, but it's good to just dive the fuck in, right into the deep end and figure it out. Because if you don't get addicted to anything, like it's going to be a great learning curve for you. Like it's just going to be, you're just going to learn a million things, you know?
Yeah. I think the saying goes, you know, take the island, burn the boat, right? Just
nice.
Get the hell out there,
really
and cool. no going back.
Totally. I mean, a lot of people like, you know, are like, I remember when I was first starting out in Australia, and I remember people being like, yeah, you should probably get a degree in something else first and then go and chase it. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that because I only want to do one thing. I mean, I'm interested in a whole bunch of things, but I want to do one thing. And I just feel like that's a whole waste of 3 years when I really know what I want to do. However, that works for some people. Some people like to be, you know, really smart and like, I want to save 30,000 before I go and chase, you know, being an actor in Los Angeles. So I'm, and it's like, and I was like, oh, okay, I got $1,000. Let's go. You know,
it's interesting because I assume that a lot of people get caught up in the make believe, or they get caught up in what they hear into the stories, and you know, you'll never make it, and it's so competitive.
Oh yeah.
But you know, if you've got the certainty in yourself, like you got to be able to sift through the shit, right? You got to be able to sift through what's true and what's not true, right? And be anchored by what the truth is.
Yes, well, the other side of what you're talking about, like it's so hard to make it, is the stories of people being discovered on the street that people moving to Los Angeles really think could possibly happen to them because they've got such an interesting look and they've got such a natural swag. And people hear these stories about Johnny Depp or Nicolas Cage, I don't know, like all these people who got found on the street, and they're like, oh, that could happen to me. And it's like, yeah, well, but probably not, you know, and chances are it will be really hard for you. In fact, chances are it will never happen for you. You know, that's the truth of the industry. Is like, you know, and that's what's amazing. And I still find it incredible that actors haven't given up. I really, and I'm not saying it in a bad way, because I know a million talented actors, like really talented people who they haven't even been given a whisper of hope in like 10 years that they can make it. And yet they still keep on, like they still keep on going out for auditions, looking for a new agent. And it's like, I don't know, like I would have moments like that where there wasn't a sniff of hope for like a month. And that would really hard. They were always the hardest moments. I know actors who haven't had a sniff of hope ever, you know, or in a year, or, you know, and they keep on keeping on. They have no reason to believe that it's going to happen for them one day. They just do believe it. And I don't understand that. I'm really amazed by it, actually. Like, and it's still something that I struggle to fathom, even friends of mine who are like that, you know?
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I mean, the artists that I've met, and not just actors, but artists in their own sense, whether it's, you know, athletes or, you know, health practitioners, people that are really kind of masters of their craft. I have found that true creators are typically not great salesmen or salespeople.
Yeah.
And so I imagine that even in your industry, there's a component, you've got to sell yourself, right? You've got to be able to sell yourself and be resourceful. You know, I think that's one thing that stuck with me is it's never a lack of resources. It's a lack of resourcefulness. Do you think that has a role in kind of like part of why? Like, I don't know the answer to this. I'm just trying to.
No, it's such a good point. It's such an interesting thing because I always think about Joaquin Phoenix whenever this comes up. It's like, do you think that guy, you know, well, he's a child star, so it's different. But, you know, you look at that guy who is so authentically himself, and he's a strange person. Do you think that he goes into meetings and schmoozes with CAA agents? I don't think so.
Right.
Like, I don't think that guy goes for lunch with directors and producers and like giggles it up and is the man of the party. No, he's a strange individual who is so authentically himself. He's not a salesman, he's an artist, and that is that, right?
Sure.
And then but yes, for most actors, like, we have to learn to be salesmen, businessmen, alongside being creatives. And I find this all the time. It's I think it's my least favorite part of the industry, and probably for every actor or an artist, it's the least favorite bit, is having to sell yourself, like, and having to, like, you know, this person who is, you know, you meet a person who's like thinking no about you, and you have to try and change their mind in conversation. And that just makes you feel like a desperate human, which is such an ugly feeling. But yeah, you've got to learn to be a salesman. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I've got all this content, and it's written, it's ready to rock out there. But I'm an actor and I'm a writer, and now I am forced to be a producer, and producers really have to be salesmen.
Right.
And I hate it because I'm not good at it. I don't like calling people who don't want to borrow of me and having to try and get their attention. And I've been thinking that this year I don't want to do it anymore. I would like this, as in coming 2021, I want to quit it, because I do feel like I'm having to push when I don't want to push.
Wow.
I'm having to sell myself when I don't want to do it. I'm having to be desperate when I don't want to do that. I just want to be the artist and let them come to me, because I don't know, I feel like there's this flow with life where you don't try and control it, and you just let it like flow. Be okay with where you are. This is exactly where you're supposed to be. Once you know that, let it come to you, instead of going out there and like, hey, notice me, I've got something really great to sell you. I don't want to do that anymore, because I don't think it's good for my soul or my spirit. I don't think it's good for my creativity, and I don't think people respect it. So I'm like, I want to be done with that part of myself that's like trying to sell me. Like,
but I imagine a lot of actors do play that game. They do play that game quite well, and they're politically positioning themselves. And
totally. There are some very schmoozy people who are really good at that sort of thing. I just don't think that it fits my personality at all, and I just want to be done with that area. But yeah, there are people who are excellent salesmen of themselves, and maybe what they lack in talent, they make up for there. You know, they make up for in schmooziness and their ability to be friends with people in an authentic way. And people smell that authenticity in Hollywood. Like, you know, you're an actor who's not very good, but you're really great at talking to people, and you can make friends with the producer, and the producer doesn't feel that you're just being friends with them to get a job. You know, it's like, that's a skill. And I don't necessarily have it. I think I always feel like when I'm sucking up to people, they probably know. And so I just don't do it. You know, I just like refuse to suck up, you know?
I suppose it depends on what's driving you, and what's really, you know, what is the underlying value system and driver for what you do. I mean, I had to ask the question probably 3 or 4 years ago, because I was having some good moderate success, and what I thought was driving me. I wasn't happy. You know, it's a real aha moment where I had to kind of reassess and start asking really meaningful questions. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What drives me? What drives my behavior? And I imagine in your industry, there's a variety of, you know, people that are driven by different things, like yourself being, you know, a little bit more just on the really creative and wanting to be true to that. Whereas I imagine there's a lot of significance for a lot of people as well, right?
Oh yeah, they want to be famous. They want to be rich. They want to be
rich. Yeah.
They want to be relevant. I mean, I understand rich in a way. I mean, I understand money. Great. Like I think that's my new why now that I have a boy, a baby boy is like, oh gosh, like, I better make some money, because I want to have to send him to school and put food on the table. Like,
totally.
Like, I really have to reevaluate my why now. And now it has to be, there's no doubt, like, money has to come into it. creativity can't just be the only thing. And it never was anyway. And I think there is that inkling always of like, I would like to be relevant also, I would also, I would also like to be acknowledged for what I do and for people to enjoy what I do. That means a lot to me as well.
Yeah.
But then the why really changes when you have a baby and you're like,
Totally.
okay, you're actually a why. You're a big why, and you're a good why too, because nobody can doubt that if I want the best for you and I'm doing this for you, that's a good thing, like not a hoping to be relevant or famous thing,
Yeah. So my son's 3 now. So when they start to get a little bit older and you start to actually interact with them, a big why for me was, when they look at you and you can see, looking up at you, you're kind of a 6 foot something individual and they're just such a, little small naive soul. And they look up at you and they have such admiration for everything that you do, how you move, how you speak, how you carry yourself, how you engage, and just getting goosebumps just thinking about it, because it's such a massive why, when you're a role model to somebody and you're going to shape their
Can
life.
I ask you at 3, what's the sleep like? Just out of interest, like what's it like?
Look, I think if you
than what it is right now for me, I'm 6 weeks in.
Look, I'm going to be frank. I live in Asia, so we have the opportunity to have help. So during the young years, we didn't actually get really impacted in terms of sleep.
Wow.
But now it's worse for me because he just loves running into our bed at like 1 a.m. and just does this big jump into our bed right in the middle of us and just sleeps horizontal when we're trying to sleep vertically. So
wow.
Yeah, not a lot of great sleep.
Okay. Interesting. Good to know. But they do sleep for longer though when they get to 3, I imagine. They don't sleep in 3-hour, 4-hour increments. They're sleeping for 7 hours at a time, maybe.
They're well on their way. Yeah, they're well on their way to being a teenager. Like I think my son does a good 12 hours straight. He'll so
heaven. Oh, that sounds really good. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think what you can expend in energy playing with them, then you can like, okay, well, at least I make up for it in good sleep.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. That makes me feel positive about it.
So just kind of stepping back a little bit, yourself landing in LA at 21. How old are you now? You're
34. I just turned 34 last week.
34. So 13 years on. Like you can probably draw the parallel between who you were then and who you are now. I think our professional journey is it's such a close personal journey as well. It's such a spiritual journey, if you like who have you had to become now compared to who you were at 21? And obviously you're getting some good success and good momentum. Who have you had to really become and kind of step into, and what are some of those changes?
Yeah, I think like when I was young, I was really on myself. I was very like, oh, what is my brand? Who am I? And then it's just been this slow journey of going, you are who you are when you're not thinking about it.
Right.
You are who you are when you're just like thrust into a situation and you react authentically. That's who you are. If you think, oh gosh, how would, this idea of me react here, or, tell a joke here, and really releasing that has been like therapeutic, and also a good discovery of who I am now, because I would think like back then it's like you've got to have a thing, like you got to have a brand. You got to be like, Luke Cook, what 20-year-old Luke Cook wanted Luke Cook to be, which was like this schmoozy, posy, cute twerp. That's who Luke Cook at 20 wanted Luke Cook to be, like this cool James Dean type, with a cigarette and a tight shirt,
Right.
And then it was like, okay, well, and then slowly it was just like, release that, get off yourself, get onto the world around you. And comedy is great for that, because and I guess that's where it's like change. It's like, I've realized that comedy is where I'm most comfortable. So it's probably where I should be. And then comedy is great for that, because comedy relies on everything that's outside of you. It's like, a character is actually an impersonation of like maybe 5 different people that you've you know, and so then you start watching the world a little bit more intently because you want to drink it in because it's going to be opportunities for jokes, and you don't watch the world like that. It just naturally happens. It's like, okay, like I have a character named Louise who's like the typical Aussie mum who's based on like 5 mothers around me: my mother-in-law, my mum, my best friend's mum, and another mum who like I've just like drunk in over the years. And you know, and now I push it out through this character, all that material of like, you know, an overbearing Aussie mum. And it's just like, good, I'm off myself, you know, I'm not thinking about what the Luke Cook brand is. It's just like, or what the Luke Cook I want to be Luke Cook is. It's like, you're just who you are. You're just who you are.
Yeah.
You know, you're just who you are. Because once you get off yourself, once you stop looking in the mirror all the time, which I did when I was 20, I loved looking at myself in the mirror, like loved. I thought I was so cute. And I was cute. I was super handsome. And I just loved looking in the mirror at myself. Oh my gosh, you know? And it's like, great, get the fuck away from the mirror. Go on. Like, I was always social, but get involved in LA with a group of people who are like-minded, who want the same things as you. Get involved in the community and get the fuck off yourself. And that's what I did. And it was so good for me to finally be away from the idea that like you need to brand yourself or be something other than what you are in order to make it or be worthy of love.
Was that kind of a process over 13 years, or was that kind of a pivotal point that just kind of like, you're like, bang, this needs
no process, totally. Still ongoing process. Still like, still there are moments in like in a week where I'll be like, oh gosh, I have nothing to put out. I have nothing comedic to do. I need to push, and because people are expecting something of Luke Cook, and it's like, no, just relax.
Right.
Nobody's actually thinking about you. You're thinking about you. And Luke Cook puts out something funny every week. It's like, oh, does Luke Cook really? It's like, you know, just release those ideas of yourself. Just be who you are and be a bit more. And so that's, as I said, it's a process. I'm still figuring that out. Like, I'm not good at it. Still like have weeks where I'm shit at it and other weeks where I'm great at it.
Is that critical for being successful, like a successful actor? Like, cause I heard the other day, I was listening to a podcast, and I think they were talking about, you know, everybody has the ability and duty to kind of just put themselves out there and just tell their story, but you can't do it unless you've really had the opportunity to get in touch with and be authentic with yourself. Do you think it's like is it a must have in order to be the pinnacle of a career actor?
I think there's an actor named Peter Sellers who you may have heard of. He was like the Jim Carrey of the 50s and 60s. And he just did characters, and eventually didn't know who he was because he was always doing characters. Right. He was the Pink Panther. You may have known him from that. Anyway, I always thought that was interesting, and so in that way, no, like. And, you know, you look at method actors and they're always losing themselves and finding themselves again in different places, and which is an amazing skill to learn. I'm not like that at all. So I don't think knowing who you are is an important part, or even having an authentic part of you is necessary for success. And then people who are divas on set now because they think, oh gosh, hey, I'm Cameron Diaz. Not Cameron. You know, Cameron Diaz is perfectly fine. I've never heard anything about it. But let's just say Cameron Diaz is wrapped up in the idea of being Cameron Diaz. You know, it's like, yo, I'm Cameron Diaz, so I need a Diet Coke right now with 2 pieces of fresh lime in it. Thank you. It's like, you know, it's like wrapped up. Once you get so that person can still be successful, but they're wrapped up in the idea of who they are, of their brand. You know. Honestly, like. The brand thing, like thinking of yourself because as an actor, like you are your product. Thinking of yourself as a brand and not a person, it can really F you up and make you entitled, but doesn't mean that you won't be successful.
Dude, I'm like, as you're like talking about this, I'm literally starting to form this like this visual of, you know, it feels like in the acting world, you either go one of two ways. You just go into a really deep understanding of yourself and you just become a better, more whole individual, or you go down this other path of just like getting consumed in your ego and, almost being self-destructive. And I guess one thing that I really enjoyed about yourself, I mean, only having met you just recently, was just the amount of humility. I think when we met at Timmy's, just kind of straight, hey, how you going? It was just humility from the very get-go. And I think, I think it's such an important value. I mean, something that I certainly hold close to myself. Like how has humility kind of played a role in your growth and kind of everything that you do in the acting world?
Yeah. Well, firstly, thank you. I'm glad. I am very humble. You're absolutely correct about that. No. I think I value humility also, like in people. Like I'm drawn to it and want to I love when people are hesitant to call themselves good at something that I know that they're good at. I kind of love that quality in a person,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So kind of my break would be this show called Sabrina, which is on Netflix. And I was acting alongside people who very established actors who are in their 40s and 50s, and a whole bunch of actors in their early 20s, right?
Yep.
Who maybe had a year or two of auditioning, not getting anything, and then they got Sabrina, bam, right? And it was so interesting to see, and it's so good to see the actors who are older influencing the younger actors and going have humility. If you ever think that you're too good for this job, go back to LA and start auditioning again and see how quickly you are miss this place. Be so grateful for this job. Don't ever think that you're too good for it or too big for it, because you're not, and you'll quickly figure that out. And so what I thank for my, what I thank for my so-called humility, groundedness, is 10 years of utter rejection.
That'll do it.
It's the best, because you're just thankful when it works. You're just thankful when you get work. You're like, I got rejected for so many years. I heard so many no's, and so many times you don't hear anything. You don't hear no. You just go out about your life, and it's not a no. It's just a bip, not even giving you the no. It's it's worse than a no. I thoroughly recommend going and being rejected for many years, and then letting that form how grateful you are for every moment that you get to do what you love. So that's what I'm thankful for, because I look at the younger actors from Sabrina who are now going out into the world and don't have those older actors influencing them as much anymore. Yeah. And I'm like, oh God, I pray for you, but please don't get too big for your breeches, because you're not, the world will chew you up and spit you out if you want to be a prick.
Has a funny way of doing that, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I hope that but that can be their journey too. They didn't go through years of rejection. So they'll go through a few years of success, and then eventually figure out, hey, well, the producer doesn't, you're not coming back next season. Or why not? Oh, the producer thinks that you're an arsehole. Yeah. And everyone here thinks you're an arsehole. That's why you're not coming back next season. And they'll be like, oh, wow, what happened to me? What happened to that young, cool actor who just wanted to have fun? Yeah. It got lost in the branding. There's that branding thing again. It's well, I'm big, man. I've got 1 million followers on Instagram. Yeah, no one gives a shit. Show up, know your lines, and be polite, and that will get you through 1 million doors that being an arsehole, entitled, branded person won't.
Oh, so true. I hate assholes.
Yeah. Hate them. And saying that, my set, the set of Sabrina, everyone was so great. That we'd have these moments of the younger actors in the early 20s who hadn't experienced rejection, kind of been texting the first AD and saying, hey, why isn't there anyone in the makeup room to take off my makeup? And that was a rare moment, but it was a moment that everyone, once they heard it, was like, oh, really? That person's getting like that, are they? And we treat them accordingly, like bitchy actors do. I'm just gonna not really be nice to you today. And actually it's a good quick lesson. It's like even though it's bitchy and awful and not really as bold as you should be, because you should go up to somebody and say, you know, ideally, and say, look, I heard about this, your attitude about this, that's not cool, like that's not our set. Instead, you just treat them poorly and they figure out, hey, nobody's been nice to me today, what's going on? Maybe I'm an asshole, maybe I've done something wrong, I've got to think about what that is. Oh, I did text that person this, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that next time. If you're a thoughtful person, you'll figure it out. You'll figure out why people aren't being nice to you.
Yeah, some people are naive, right? Some people are a little bit blind to what's going on in the world around them. So it's definitely a journey.
And we all have the ability to be blind to what's going on around us. Like there are moments when I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. I was an asshole. Like I wasn't a little entitled bitch. Yeah. And I just didn't notice it at the time. And then somebody makes you aware of it, or somebody treats you meanly, and you're like, wait, what's going on? Is this about something else? This is about something else. I remember I was an asshole.
Yeah, yeah. So do you see yourself as a mentor now that you've gone through the, 10, 13 years of no's, and, now you've kind of grown into more maturity and you've got younger actors around you?
I suppose so. Yeah. Like definitely I wouldn't call myself their mentor if they're not willing to call me that. I do feel that way though. Like I have a few friends that I feel there's a kind of an older brother, younger brother, or even a father-son relationship kind of feeling with. And it's not necessarily about that they want my career. It's more that they're like, oh, I want to get to your age and have a great wife, a kid, and a good life. I think it's the way that I see the world, maybe, that they like aspire to. It's like, oh God, you don't take it too seriously. You're having a laugh and you're grateful for everything that comes to you. If I can inspire people and they just want to have that part of me, that's good. Oh, I'll take that. But definitely, definitely I feel like younger actors, and there are actors around me who look up to me, but they won't say it. They're just like kind of watching, and they're watching and just drinking it in a bit. And I have a few friends who I would have considered I'm mentors to, who are now like maybe a little bit resentful.
Right.
There's also that.
I don't think mentorship has to be like hey, sign this, please.
Yeah.
Mentor, right? It's a bit of an informal process.
But in some self-help communities, the mentor thing is like serious. It's like, got to have mentors. And you say, oh, that person's my mentor. Right. And it's like, I wouldn't say that. I don't have people like that. They're not one or two people for me that I'm like, yeah, my mentor. I'm like, there's like, 5, 10 people who I've just taken little things from. But they're in the self-help community, you would know, right? There's people who are like, that's my mentor. Yeah.
So who inspires you now then? I mean, if you don't have a established mentorship, but who inspires you? Kind of who?
It's a really good question. I think I just admire people from afar. I like, and there are people who I kind of resent too, like who I admire at the same time. Like I admire people like Chris Lilly, who's an Aussie actor who does all these characters, and then, has really made a lot happen for himself just through doing all these different characters. Is somebody that I admire. And I'm like, wow, like I'm always talking about his trajectory and how he did it. He's somebody that I admire 1000%. And I admire there are creators who I'm like, wow, they did that. Now they're doing this over here. Like, I'm trying to think about people that might be like Childish Gambino. Like I resent him so much because he's so bloody talented, but I admire him. I'm like, it's like amazing. Like, how are you a writer on all these incredible shows and a good actor, and an amazing musician, and all of those things? Like, truly, there aren't many people that you can say are as talented as that guy. And I resent him so much because he's so talented. I wish I was that talented. Or I think there's a part of me that's like, I reckon I could be that talented, but I can't. Like, I like, it's just, I don't know. I look up to people like that. Those are the people I admire. I want to be multifaceted. I want to be good at a number of different things and have people go, I can't believe he's good at all those things. Yeah. And I admire people who are like that. At the same time, I think, it's funny to think, actually, there isn't a level of which all of my admiration, and when I really look up to somebody, there's also an element of like jealousy, resentment too. Like, it's like, oh God.
That's a
Really
big,
good.
that's a big concoction of emotion, right? I mean, it's but I think
Yeah.
it's really important. I think it's important to have those kind of people reference points. You know,
Yeah.
that kind of, I love the kind of just looking at what's possible, that whole realm of possibility. That's what always has driven me. I look and I go, okay,
Yeah.
that guy's doing it. I mean, there's no reason why I couldn't do it. And
Mm-hmm.
dealing with, and then that is, and then it becomes a personal thing because then it becomes, you know, you do have moments of jealousy or moments of resentment. It's like, okay, why am I having that feeling? Why am I going through this emotion? You know, as
Yes.
opposed to channeling this into just doing more and just kind
Yeah.
of getting off my ass and doing it.
Yes. And sometimes like I compare myself to so I want to be multifaceted, right? I want to have a great career in TV and film, be six and be and put out content that no one's putting out, that's well loved and people really enjoy. And so
Mm.
sometimes I'll even compare myself to, like, you know, there's a guy named Benny Drama who's an Instagram guy, so funny, highly recommend following him. And I'm like, and he's getting over 1 million followers, he's got all this attention. And I'm like, why aren't I getting all that attention? And then there are these guys called the Inspired Unemployed Aussies, hilarious too. Follow them if you can. And I always look at them and I'm like, gosh, I can't believe they get 10,000 comments on everything they post. Like, how come I don't get that? And it's like, okay, but wait on, Luke, you're also like a successful TV actor. Why are
Mm.
you comparing yourself to, you're wondering why you don't have all of this over here, but you're completely ignoring the fact that they don't have all of the things that you have either. Like, you're just completely ignoring and looking at one facet of their lives that they're successful at, and ignoring all the facets of which you're successful in different parts of your life. And so you've got to kind of be on yourself when you compare, get
Yeah.
jealous and admire, and kind of go like, yeah, but are you being really honest? Like, aren't there a lot of things that they're probably looking at you about and going, oh, I wish I had that too, you know,
Yeah.
or is it fair to compare yourself to them in those areas? Like, sometimes you're just like, you're actually comparing yourself to, it's not fair to compare myself to other people the way that I do all the time. It's just, it's unfair to me and kind of unfair to them too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I think the good news is you're not alone. I think it's probably a human nature. I think everybody does it, right? Especially now with social media.
Yes.
It's and it can be debilitating, right? It can be,
Yeah.
if you, especially if you let it. I think that's the key. Like, if you let it take you down the rabbit hole and you let it just kind of like drag you down, it can
Yeah.
be such a amazingly it's such an energy suck,
Yeah.
as opposed to acknowledging, because again, everybody does it. I've done it. And the way I kind of look at it is, when I find myself doing it, I've got to be able to pull myself out of it and just snap out of it. And the quicker I can do that, the better, because then I can put my energy into other things, which is moving forward. I kind of look at that as like energy backwards, energy forwards.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm thinking about what other people are doing, or I'm thinking about how successful they are, then I'm not thinking about what's in front of me. And yeah, it's
How
been
do
a,
you, so what's the plan though? I mean, okay, so like, let's just say you see somebody online who's killing it and you're like, you start comparing yourself, and then you feel like jealous, and then you're like, oh, Johannes, there it is. There's the jealousy. There's the comparativeness. Better snap out of it. And then what's your game plan? What do you usually do?
yeah, you know, sometimes in a couple cases, I've removed people from my social media just
Oh yeah.
because I didn't want them within my sphere of reference. And I
Yeah.
found that there were some particular people that I found myself having a really emotionally charged feeling when I saw them on social media. And so I just removed them.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
just became all of a sudden, you're not
That's
there.
smart. Yeah. That's
Um,
smart.
but it doesn't go away entirely, right? You constantly looking around you, what people are doing. But I think for me, part of it is managing my truth and managing what is true. And some
Yeah.
of that is through just kind of daily practice and routine. I find, your mind is a muscle. And if you don't condition it and you don't take care of it, it dissipates, right? It kind of withers
Yeah.
away. On the other side of that, if you do take care of it and on a daily basis, you're working your mind muscle, becomes much more resilient. And so one thing that's been good for me over the last 3 years is just my morning routine, which includes a bit of meditation and some affirmation and language, which I think is so incredibly important. It's changed my life. And it's not
Yeah.
perfect, by the way. It's like, some mornings I'll wake up and I've just had like a busy night dreaming about weird shit, or thinking about, like, I literally would have dreams about those people that I was jealous about.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
I'd be thinking about, because it was quite personal and like close to home. And I'd
Yeah.
find myself waking up in a funk, like, just thinking about that person, like thinking about like jealous thoughts. And so when I get out and do my morning routine, which is movement, getting the blood flowing, but then also changing my language. And like, I would have certain mornings where I'd literally be like walking around the neighborhood, just like saying shit out loud. Like, yeah, and if you're somebody like walking by me, you probably think I'm like some crazy loony, but it was just saying things out loud and just really using language that was true, and using language that was strengthening and just would kind of bring me back down and be grounded.
And what was the language? Is it like talking about the truth? Like, you've got a great wife, got a great kid. What is the language?
Mate, like, a lot of different things, like exactly that. It's like acknowledging what is there and what is true. Like, cause, and going through it as a business person, as an individual, putting myself out there in a personal sense, which I'm sure in acting, the same thing is, we self-sabotage. It's like that process of, oh, I'm not good enough, or these people aren't going to listen, or, I can't build my business. And so that self-sabotage is that internal language that is internal. I mean, it's nobody else can hear that language. And so it's really important to manage that language. So, so externalizing it, not just walking around with it kind of turning as an audio loop, but actually getting it out of your freaking mouth and saying what's true. Like, I am strong. I am, I am healthy. I am full of vitality. I am energetic. I have a beautiful family. I've got an amazing opportunity ahead of me. I can do anything that I want to do in my life.
Yeah.
Now, when you start saying that stuff, you can't feel jealous and you can't feel grateful at the same time. You can't feel those two same emotions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think it's good to push out the bullshit too. Like those, that guy is absolutely, that guy is doing so much better than me. Like actually saying it out loud, like lets you go, like,
bullshit.
Lets you hear the bullshit. Yeah. Then you really, like, you put a label on it instead of just it mucking around in your head. And that the feeling of like jealousy because because you think that person's doing better than you, and then you push it out of your mouth and you're like, oh my gosh, that's so dumb.
Yeah.
You got to like throw the lie out. You got to speak it. Yeah,
totally.
That's smart. Yeah, I don't think I do the affirmation thing so much. I really need to like. I've always wanted to do the affirmation thing. I've just never got into it, and I've always thought it would be helpful for me because I'm very language based. And I like repetition, and there's an element where like you can teach yourself something just by repeating.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really know what I think my way of dealing with comparative thinking and getting jealous of other people is just going and getting into production, going and producing something that way, that way, because like as soon as I can get into creation mode, the happier I am. It doesn't really matter what else is going on. It's like, oh, I'm in creator mode and I'm creating something, and that feels so good that it sets aside like everything else. Oh yeah, I was jealous of them like half an hour ago, but now I'm in creative mode and it feels so good. But then sometimes those comparative thoughts push me to be like, oh, I better create something now. You better make something good because they're really good, and then you make something shit because you've made it out of this place of like comparativeness, jealousy. So but I don't necessarily know that the production thing, going into that creative space because of somebody else, sometimes I don't know if that's good. I guess it is. It doesn't matter what gets you there as long as you get there. But I also think, like, is it a good thing to go into production mode and creative mode out of jealousy for other people? I don't know. Doesn't matter, I guess. Like, sometimes it's like, well, whatever gets you there. And and you'll figure it out.
Mate, I think it's a really good point though. I mean, just going through the process of creating this podcast. So I truly believe everybody's creative in their own right in different ways. And some people have a natural ability kind of to tap into that creativity. I have always kind of had this belief that I'm not creative. I'm good with numbers. I'm good with growing a business. I'm good with, which to be frank, as I kind of speak about this out loud, it's bullshit because that is creativity.
Right.
I've always kind of told myself that I'm not creative in the sense that, I can create a podcast and content and, is it going to be useful? And so
you're not a song and dance man though.
Yeah, no,
and people think that's what creativity is. Like, oh, can I sing and dance at the same time? It's like, that's not creativity. I mean, it is, but like, it's not the only form. Like, like having a great conversation is creativity. Thinking of new places to go in a conversation and interesting places you can take it. Thinking of a great question's creativity. Creativity is so, it's right fucking there. It's not far away from you ever. Doesn't take a fancy outfit full of glitter, look dancing around like, Peter Allen in order to be creative. It actually is just like, it's so simple, it's stupid. Like, it's actually like, it's saying the first thing that comes to your head. Like that's like creativity.
I found myself through this process though, finding like what really works for me, what brings out my creativity. And I never connected the two before, but it is, it's so distinctly at the gym or when I'm on a run or working out, like that's when the creativity, it's like all of a sudden this like tap turns on. It's like flows. And
do you drive?
So I drive.
Do you ever get it then?
I I'm not one to really sit when I'm driving and listen to music. I typically will just be thinking, which is creativity. But it's really when I have those endorphins flowing and I have the kind of adrenaline going that I'm like, okay, it really kind of kicks in. Why is driving where you kind of...
Yeah. If I know where I'm going, like it's a drive I've done 1,000 times, just back home from city or wherever, then I can absolutely go into this space of, I'll think of a character and then just start monologuing as that character and then have something to shoot when I get home. I'm like, oh, that's funny. I got to shoot it, or just, like any idea for a sketch, like it just kind of happens when I'm in this zone of doing something. It can be exercise and it can be like driving, like you're just doing something, but you don't have to think, it doesn't take all your energy to do it. If you're driving and you need to know where you're going and you've got the map up, you probably won't get there. But if you just are just doing something without even thinking, something you've done a million times, that's when it all starts to happen. I don't know if you've heard this, but when you get into an argument with your like significant other, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, the best thing that you can do as a man is to stop, go and do your hobby for half an hour and forget about the argument, then come back. Go and do something that you're good at, that you're good at, like exercise, that's a great one, or, painting if you're into it, whatever. Forget about the argument and come back. But there's this element of like, get into a different mind frame than the one that's like, it's actually like the guy who talks about it is the guy who wrote Women Are From Mars, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And he's all about keeping in your maleness, keeping in your testosterone, rather than getting into the argument, bickering estrogen. Like he's like, get out of it as quickly as you can, stay in your manness, get in that zone, and then come back, and the argument will go much, much better if you don't give into kind of other parts of yourself that aren't good. But I don't know why I brought that up. I guess it was like something to do with you're actually at your, like, you got to, that hobby, have it around, have it not like, ready to go whenever you need it. Whenever you're like, I'm in my head and it's not good, I'm not thinking great things, go hobby. Having an argument that I don't want to have and it's not a discussion that's going well, go do the hobby. It's always,
I think it's important. I think it's important to understand and kind of identify how you tap into your creativity.
Totally.
No matter what we do, we're all creators. So like when you got your, talk me through the process. Cause like I draw a parallel between business and acting, right? Cause I feel like we're all doing acting at some point in you know, our professional careers. I mean, I can probably think of like walking into a board meeting for a big meeting and you're in front of a bunch of new characters and a bunch of new people. It's acting, right? And so they're all the emotions that kind of come. Am I going to say the right thing? Am I going to perform? Like what goes on, like to be a good actor, like stepping onto set and like talk me through the process of like going from Luke Cook into actor mode. And, you know, what is that process? I've always been curious.
Yeah. I mean, it's different for everyone. For me, it's like, lines. I just learn lines, and I run them with myself. And if I can get the other person to run them too, then I run them with them. And it's really something that's happened over so many years of acting, like, and like hours and hours per day of acting. You like create this habit for yourself that can either be good or you're doing something wrong. And so I learned how to act just doing scenes in an acting class, learning lines every fucking day for like 5 different scenes every day. So like hours of my day just spent acting, to the point where I don't even know what my process is anymore. It's just something that, you know, naturally occurs. When I pick up a script, I'm like, okay, I immediately just go. And there's not a lot of a whole lot of thinking. There could be more thinking, definitely. Like, yeah, I don't know if this is answering your question.
So preparedness is critical.
Preparedness, it's huge. Like preparedness is massive because you know, people think like, you know, ad-libbing is so cool, and like when people come up with things on the fly is so cool. You only get to do that and do it well once you really know how to prepare. You know, it's like you know, did you know that, you know, there are all these things that you can look up on, you know, actors ad-libbing famous movie lines and stuff. And it's like, yeah. And it's because they were so prepared and so in that character, so in the zone that they could, like, things that they say would fly out of their mouth and be great. But you don't know about the 10 times ad-libbed before that didn't work, that the director was like, cut, what the fuck was that? You know, It's like, but just being prepared, that's the bare minimum. Knowing your lines is like once you know your lines and you know what's going on with those lines, that's 90% of the battle. The rest is just creativity and then working off the other person, getting to look them in the eyes, seeing the actual color of their eyes, and getting off yourself. And like, I know the lines, so I can feel free to just be here with you. Like I don't have to be thinking about the lines. I'm looking at you, and now I'm, you know, that way you can be free. You know, it's like knowing, it's, as a businessman, I imagine it's just like knowing your pitch. Like, I know it, you know, inside out, whatever. If when I click the button for the, I don't know what it's called, you click the button for the next slide to come across in your pitch, and that doesn't work, it's like, oh, it's fine, it doesn't show up, I'll just tell you what it is anyway. It's like bam, 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 bam. And it's like, wow, a problem happened. I know this so back to front that it doesn't really matter. You know, it's like when the other actors forgets their lines, you're so prepared that it's like, fine, I know where this conversation's going.
You pick them up.
And you pick them up, or you take it in a different direction that it wasn't going before, and maybe that works out better. But just it's strange. The creativity isn't not knowing what you're doing. It isn't being unprepared. It isn't just like going on the fly. It's like it's like hours and hours and hours of preparation, and then you fly it. Then you release it. Then you like go, okay, I've done all this preparation. I'm going to forget about all that now, and I'm just going to be here. And God knows what will happen.
Do you get nervous?
All the time. I don't get nervous on sets anymore. I get nervous for auditions. Like I get nervous going into a room full of people who probably have no in their head immediately, or that's bullshit. That's actually my shit. They have a question mark in their head. They want the problem solved. They want you to be the actor that they give the role to, because they just want to get out of that casting room and be done with it.
Right.
Like, and they also want a great person for it. And I've got to believe that I'm that great person. Yeah. But I do get nervous. That's when I get nervous, and I hate it. It's like, because the initial audition, there's 3 auditions to get a role, right? You come for the initial audition with just the casting director. There's the callback with the producers. And then there's the test with studio and the producers. And that's like a room full of 30 people. So the first one you come in, you're like, free. It's just me and the casting director. If I fail, I only fail in front of one person. That's fine. And it's like, but so you're free. So you probably do your best work then. Then you come back for the producers. It's like, these are creatives. Like generally speaking, the producers will be the writer and the creator and the showrunner. It's like, cool, we're the creatives, it's all good. You just do my shit. Then you come back for an entire room full of people who are like not creatives at all suits watching you. And that's when I die. That's when I'm not good. That's when nerves get the better of me. And I think about getting the role and not doing the part. I think about, I got to get it because there's 50 grand up for grabs. If I get this role, it's 50 grand in my pocket. It's like you got this number in your head, and it's not a good thing to be thinking about because you're trying to be creative, you're trying to stay in the scene, and all you can think about is 50 grand or what it's gonna mean to go back to and tell your friends, I got the role, or going back to your friends and saying, I didn't get the role, they wanted someone else, and how crushing that'll be. All those things going on in the head that take you away from creativity, that are putting you in the future rather than in the present.
Have you found a way to channel the nerves? Like, I mean, you hear about high performance athletes, nerves are natural, everybody gets them, but people that have gone into the pinnacle of whatever, being an athlete or any kind of industry, being able to channel those nerves into energy and just like harness those. Have you found yourself doing that?
It's a constant battle. Like sometimes I think I get it. I'm like, I got it. I know how I got the nerves under control and I was in the moment.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I still need to work so hard on it. And I think just being as prepared as possible, getting off yourself. There's an audition technique that's like, come into the room when you're nervous and notice 3 things in the room. Like the water bottle that's half drunk on the table of the casting director, the pen that's in the producer's hand, what type of pen is it? The color of the eyes of the person running the camera. It's like, good. Now you're off yourself. You're onto the room. You're out. You're off. You're not like, how am I walking? How do I look? Do I look okay? It's like, are they thinking that they want this? What are they thinking? It's like, fuck that. Get in the room. Get in the room. Get off yourself. So that's what I've heard, and it does work for me. It's a theory that I've heard of that does work for me, and sometimes it doesn't work for me. Sometimes I'm like, I'm fucked. I'm in my head.
Yeah,
and I know I can be better than this. And sometimes you think you're in your head, and you leave, and they're like, wow, they fucking loved you, bro. You did amazing work today. And it's like, wow, you didn't even, it's like the actor doesn't know shit. That's another great big lesson that actors always are like, they don't understand. It takes a long time to get. Is that you think you were shit, and you were great. And the days that you think you were good, you were shit. Like you'll go and do a play and you'll be like, God, I killed that. Your friends are coming after and they come up to you. Hey, good work. Yeah, we're going to head off. And it's like, what the? And then you come off and you're like, oh my God, I am the worst. I sucked. And then they come in, they're like, what the fuck was that? That was brilliant. And it's like, wow, isn't it weird that all those things that go on in our heads can be lying? Like, can be not true at all, or how you feel about something isn't the truth anyway. Wow.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
That's a whole other level.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Just conscious of time, dude. I guess one more question before we wrap things up. I know COVID has thrown a curveball in your industry. You guys have, I think I haven't seen a good movie come out this year. I don't think the cinemas
they're holding on to all of them. Yeah, they're holding on to all of them because they want the cinematic release. They want the big bucks. So they're releasing it on like HBO Max and all these things. And I look forward to going back to the cinema.
So, but what I was going to ask is, with all that, I mean, what's the next mountain for yourself? Like, what's the big lofty goal that you're pursuing in context of COVID, or just in general? I mean, where's your head at considering all the shit that's happened this year?
Yeah, currently I'm in Sydney, which is just lovely. Like, not a lot of cases, seems to be pretty removed from the rest of the world that's going into, COVID chaos. I would love to stay here, but my green card, if I'm not back in the States within a year, it just goes away. Like it forfeits. So I've got to go back with my wife and son. Hopefully, I really hope that we don't get separated, and just be there for a few weeks, if not, for the long run. That's what I'm looking at in reality. it's not really my goal. It's just I probably have to go back to LA very soon and go back to the States. And, you know, I'll be hunting for work. You know, COVID took away, I had 2 TV shows. COVID took away both of them. So I was going into the year going, oh, great. I'm going to be on another season of 2 different shows, which was just like a dream of mine. And then like, nah, 2020 was like, nah, you're not having that. And actually, weirdly, I was strangely relieved, or at least like saw it as a great opportunity for fresh new slate of things to come through.
Yeah.
So I would really love for 2021, I would just really love to have some of my creations that like, you know, I've got a movie called Killer Koalas, which is a comedy horror, which like, I think that could just kill, like just be the funniest fucking thing that people have seen. And I've written it and I'm hoping to be in it, and to get one of these things sold, or I've got a TV show about my character Louise that I talked about earlier. I've got a different show called Plates, which is like a mockumentary based around, you know, like those obnoxious license plates that you see and who is in that car. I've got a series around that. I just want one of them to go. That's what I really love to see. But at the same time, like, as I told you earlier, I don't really want to produce these things. So I just hope to be a working person. You know, in the end, I'm happy that way.
Yeah.
I would love to have all these creative things that happen, but just to be a working actor, just to go on set is such a gift. That's what I want. Like, if I can do that, even if it's like for something terrible that I don't really love, it's like, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I still will make me happy. I just want to be creative for money. That's my big goal, is to be creative for money, whether it's great creativity or bad. Like, I'd prefer great, obviously. And I think I'm capable of great. It's just, but I just want, that's what I'm continuing to hope for, is just creativity for money, creativity for money, creativity for money. To not have to go back to driving Uber ever again, you know? Yeah.
Mate, all the best. I'll be watching from afar. We're heading back to Asia on Sunday, but you know, when we cross paths, I'm not sure. The world's a bit crazy, but mate, all the best in the endeavors, and I'll be watching from afar. And thanks for coming on the show. And it was a good chat, very raw and insightful.
Yeah, pleasure, mate. Thanks so much for having me, and I'll catch you around.
Thanks, buddy.